call the meeting to order at 5:32 p.m. And we'll have roll call of the trustees in attendance. C. Mahoney, Jack Ward, Carol Cahill, Janet Kahn, and Ken Zepp. And Danielle Biggins is absent at the moment. She may come in later.
I think she will be here. She did email me back.
Okay, so we'll move on with the approval of the minutes and whether or not there's any questions or corrections of the April 21st, 2021 minutes. Any? None? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
I move.
Second.
Carol? Okay, second by Jack. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes, so
Yes,
it's
yes, yes.
unanimous.
Yes.
It is Carol Mahoney, Carol Cahill, Jack Ward, Janet Kahn, and Ken Zepp. Our next meeting date is January 16th, and I hope, Liz, that we'll be able to be in the building at that
Oh, that'd be
particular
nice.
time. That would be wonderful to be able to get back in the building.
June 16th.
It's the 16th, June 16th at 5:30.
Thank you.
So, and let's hopefully plan on the library and the meetings that are following. So,
That'd be great.
but Liz will update us on the status when she gives her report, which is actually coming up next. So, Liz, would you begin your library director's report, please?
Sure. So the statistical report is numbers from April. You can see that circulation is up over 400% from April 2020 because that was very low, probably our lowest month. But that's encouraging. Ebook usage still pretty strong. Museum passes and reference questions increasing. We've had computer sessions for the first time this month and hours open and door count numbers, all very exciting. Any questions on this section?
I like that you give it to us ahead of time so we can look it over. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, we're still doing take and make crafts and virtual story times and online book group. For building issues, I think we've talked about all of these before, but we had a sewer backup in early April, and then the sewer department came and scoped the drains and did some digging. They were thinking about putting a clean out outside, but decided not to. For now, they have advised us to stop using the children's room bathroom. I have requested a meeting with Town Hall about that because that's not a permanent solution. But I will let you know when I know how long it might take for us to get that addressed, to get the problem fixed. So we can put that bathroom back in use. Windows started at the end of last month and they're just about finished now. We have one window that's located in the children's room, electrical room, so like a closet basically. That window came broken, so they're just waiting on a replacement for that, and they will come back and do that one. But everything else is done. It looks really good. You can see that there's a window open behind me in here, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
I don't miss the curtains from in here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of natural light, which is really nice, and fresh air is amazing.
Great.
If you can go by and actually look at the windows, they really did an excellent job. And also interior, the interior, particularly in the room that we call the young adult room, looks really great and looks really good without the curtains also.
Good.
Yes, same thing in the archive room, although we need to put something back on the windows in there for preservation purposes, but I'm looking into just a UV filtering film so we can still let light in. That would be good. But we also had to like take that room apart to give the workers access to the windows. So we're putting it back together now, and we're hoping to find a configuration for the furniture in there that might be a little more functional. We're still working on that. We are still doing curbside pickup. Last month we had 395 pickups between curbside pickup and indoor browsing. So almost 400 people overall picked up either outside or inside. We've been open for browsing for just about 6 weeks and it's going well. We're still doing online meetings and we had one deposit to the general fund at the bottom. Any questions on any of the written stuff on here? I went to a meeting this afternoon with some other community services departments and we talked about reopening. The senior center wasn't there. That would have been interesting to hear what they're thinking. This most recent reopening announcement was pretty unexpected, caught us off guard. So we're figuring out what it means right now. By the middle of June, all the staff here will be fully vaccinated. So that seems to me a good date to shoot for full reopening. That's what I'm thinking right now. Masks, I just heard today that the town will not be extending the town mask order. So we're going to be following the state mask guidance. So we'll have to figure out what that means. Any questions on that? I know it's not.
That means you won't be able to require people to wear masks in the library?
I guess technically we could if just the library wanted to, but I think that would probably lead to more problems because if we tried to make certain populations wear them based on who we assumed was vaccinated,
right,
sounds like it would lead to some problems. So I guess all we can do is wear masks if we choose to, and hopefully all of us are vaccinated so we'll be safe and patrons will have decided what they want to do personally.
And by the end of May, the state's requirement for masks anyway is removed for all people who are vaccinated. So the library staff would then get into a, perhaps a tussle with people on who is, who isn't.
right.
And it's not something that they certainly need to be involved in doing that aspect. But Liz also, now from the Board of Library Commissioners, and I know there was a long press release from the governor's office as relates to this. And I would also say that confusion is reigning because of the CDC's discussion or announcement. Going off of what the MBLC are doing, they also had some trainings previously about the whole idea of reopening. Are you going to go back and kind of revisit those so that I'm thinking about the staff. So if the staff's all vaccinated, that's great amongst themselves. If they choose to wear a mask, it's certainly up to them if they want to wear a mask when the public comes in. But making people wear a mask is not something we're going to be able to do. But it's also the other side of like the cleanliness, the upkeep, are we going to need to have the dividers that we've had, the 6 feet, the distance, the social distancing, and the setup of computers and those type of things. Are those the things that you'll be going through and reviewing with the staff as you move forward?
Well, that's part of what I think makes this a little confusing. None of that will be technically required anymore, but some of those things certainly seem like good practices to continue to me. So I'd like to do as much distancing as we can. I think we will probably need to reconfigure some furniture to make additional space. Before, if you remember, upstairs, we had staff computers right next to public computers right on top of each other. So I'm going to do everything I can to spread things out a little more. Of course, we don't have extra space to spread into or places to store things that we're not using. So I'm talking to town hall about possible storage options. It sounds like we might be able to send some more stuff over to the McKinley School, which would be really helpful. But we just started talking about that, so I don't know anything definitively yet.
Liz, is there going to be restriction as to the amount of time someone can spend in the library?
I don't think we,
No.
that would
Okay,
be real, sorry.
no, go ahead. Well,
That
so
would be
that,
really-
my follow-up is the people who were tutoring, who would spend 3 or 4 hours monopolizing a table. And that was something Bev had brought up even before COVID to start to talk, for us to talk about how that could be handled, that other people can't use the space.
Yeah, that would be really hard for us to enforce, I think, if, you know, keeping track of individual people's time, if we tried to do that. I guess we'll have to see how many tables we can fit spread out, and that might help to determine how we would manage them. I'm gonna start looking intensely at furniture and where it might be able to be moved next week.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if there are any other libraries that have the same issues. They must.
I'm
It's
sure,
a public
although,
place, so.
yeah, we are more cramped than other places where I have worked and other places I know about in the area. I don't know of anybody who has as much of a space challenge as we do off the top of my head.
I can say when Don was writing one of his books and he was meeting a woman in Concord once a week, and they do have obviously a lot more space and they had special rooms for meetings, but they had to reserve ahead of time and they had a certain amount of time that they were allowed to keep that room. I
Yeah,
know,
if
again,
we had
hopefully it's the honor system kind of thing, you know, but
yeah,
Oh.
if we had a separate room, we could do that, but we don't even have rooms for that.
no, I just meant like limiting the table time, you know, to an
Yeah.
hour or 2 hours.
Yeah, once we know how many tables we can safely fit, I guess we can think about whether that's something we should do.
But Liz, relating to the children's room, there's not going to be any limit of people, families, people being in there. Our big concern, of course, is that bathroom facility and resolving that issue, but they do have one close by. But we have no limitations on how many people can be in that children's room, right?
We won't be required to, so I guess if we go back to how it worked before, then no, there will be no limit.
And besides looking at the space that you're going to utilize upstairs, you have to take what's currently in the meeting room and move that all back to where its original locations and set up again.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how long that will take you to accomplish to get that going. So that's going to be also part of the whole opening decision.
Yep. Moving that stuff didn't take too long, so hopefully moving it back won't take too long either. Moving the other stuff around is what I anticipate will take longer.
I think it would, Liz and I met last week to talk about the strategic plan, but I also brought up the idea of, I think if we open, it might be worthwhile for us to have a sign on the front lawn or across the front door that identifies that the building is back in business or reopened, and it's really kind of a joyful situation. So that whether or not that's something that the trustees might consider purchasing. And I think it would just like be a welcome sign actually at that point. So I think when we do get the date, Liz, if you're looking outward, that might be something to consider if the other trustees feel that that would be a good, I mean, that particularly on the street there, that would be really the best advertisement for us that we're back in business.
Yeah, what would be ideal is if our new sign that's been in the works, our replacement sign that's been in the works for quite a while, could get done around this time, and then we could use that to announce it. That would be great. Erin is also focusing on moving as much summer stuff outdoors as she can, like doing as many summer reading things outside as she can, which I think is a really good idea. So I'm looking into outdoor furniture and stuff like that to support that. I think that's a really good idea.
Liz, what do you have to do in order to find out about the status of that sign?
I will check with Pat Foley. She was the one, she had been managing it and has the most information.
I think I would also put a bigger sign up there because that, as much as that sign certainly informs people driving by, you're not going to see that as well as something pretty large.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know the details of the replacement one. I don't know if it was supposed to be bigger than the existing one. I'll see if there's probably information here about it.
I don't
take a look.
believe so. Are there other, this process of opening, I'm sure for Liz and the staff, it's going to have a lot of details. And that when you do have, Liz, kind of an outline of the plan, I think that would be great for the trustees, and certainly an indication of when the date you're going to open up again would be wonderful. Because certainly people are chomping at the bit to get back into the building and utilize it. So,
Yes. I'm just going to make sure really quickly that I'm not getting texts from Zeb who disappeared.
And Danielle.
Question. Can you hear me?
yes,
Okay. Yeah, I have a question. The mask mandate is going away by order of the governor?
yes.
Okay, so there's going to be no way of enforcing that once that plug is pulled.
No,
Okay.
well, according to,
They're not required.
no, it's as of May 29th, the mask covering will be rescinded for vaccinated people. And then there are some exceptions as far as including schools, public and private transit, healthcare facilities, and nursing homes that will be excluded from some of the regulations that he's loosening up.
But I
But,
think they're only advised for unvaccinated people, not required.
right, so,
Yes, I
That
agree.
sounds like a bad idea. Anyway,
Yeah, I agree.
just question about the sign.
Yep.
Is that a done deal right now, or is it in the works?
I believe much of the process is done, just like the actual, I don't know if the new one has been actually fabricated yet. I will check with Pat and see what she knows, but I think the work on our part is done. It's just actually getting it. I think the guy who was making it had like a medical situation,
He
and
did.
that's what held it up.
How was that being funded? How was it being paid for?
I believe it's already paid. It happened.
It was
before-
Amos Phelps.
Oh,
Oh, yes, it was paid for by Phelps Agency.
and
paid for privately.
is this going to be a digital sign, or is it just a remake of the existing?
I don't think it's digital. I think it's similar to the existing one, but newer and better.
Okay. Thank you.
Another,
Yeah,
sorry.
Are we going to get any sign off on that sign before it gets?
I don't know if it had been already approved. I will check with Pat or see. There's probably a folder here somewhere that I just haven't seen, but I will I will locate it.
I don't recall any approval by the trustees at all. Does anyone else?
Well, I know Beverly and Pat worked on it. And so, yeah, Liz, if you could probably find a folder on it. I think it got to the point that there was approval because it was pretty much like the existing sign, but better and improved in some ways. But I don't know what those details are. So,
Yes, I will check on that and send
Great.
it out as soon as I find it. I should have mentioned another factor that complicates reopening is our staffing level. We do have several, here's Zeb coming back. We have several positions that are open and have been open for a long time. They're not newly added positions, they just have been unfilled. And we're in the process of filling them right now. You might have heard that there's also some movement between the library and town hall. People are changing jobs. So we have been interviewing and there are positions posted. So we hope to be fully staffed soon. I'm hoping around the same time as reopening, which will certainly make it easier to reopen when we're fully staffed.
Question?
Yep.
Are we losing staff to the town hall?
No, someone is just moving. Someone who has been here in a part-time job, but just really needs a full-time job is going to an opening at town hall.
Okay,
So we will be replacing them. We're not losing any positions. Just a
Nancy's
person.
retiring, you said?
Nancy is retiring, yes. And actually her position will be filled by Lena. She's just moving over.
That's
And we'll be
great.
replacing Lena.
When is Nancy retiring? When is she finished?
Her last day is like in the middle of July. I forget the exact date. But mid-July. She's staying on to close out the fiscal year, which is nice of her.
Yeah, right, right.
And Liz, the status of your former reference position?
Yes, it is posted and we are in the process of interviewing. We hope to have someone soon.
And with that done, then you will, as you said, you'll be up to your fully staffed.
Yes, we have, yes.
And you'll be able to return to the hours, the
Yes,
regular.
we'll be able to cover our full hours, yes.
Okay.
Seb, I'm trying to think what you missed, if there's anything.
Did you do my report for me or should I do
No,
it now?
we're still on director's report.
Oh, all right, fine. I'm
Good.
sorry. Yeah, I just got disconnected.
Yes, I was making sure you weren't texting me.
Oh, no, I hit, you know me, I always hit the wrong key.
Any questions on anything on the director's report or reopening or any of that? No, okay.
I'm busy, you're busy.
Yes.
We'll
Moving
be
on.
to financial.
We're about 88% of the way through the fiscal year, and overall we've spent about 73% of our budget. You would note, if you looked at the outstanding balances, that most of our savings are in the staff line. We've been saving money by having all those positions open and being short-staffed. But when we are fully staffed again, which should be soon, it'll start eating into that savings. So that will not continue. Books and
Excuse me,
related.
Liz, the status of the negotiations, the union negotiations?
Oh, still ongoing, but I think it's possible that they will be finished by the end of the fiscal year. That's all I've heard.
Thank you.
Any other questions on anything on here? Okay.
Any questions on Liz's financials at all? Otherwise, we'll move to Zeb.
We started last month with $122,591.33. We made at zero for this month at 0.399%. We made $40.21 in interest, bringing our balance to $122,631.54. And on our available funds, we have now $6,064.87 in available for spending.
Any questions? Okay,
Just a note that one thing we will do as part of reopening is restart those newspaper subscriptions. So those will be funded out of the trustees fund as usual.
Liz, how much does that come to monthly
What comes to 2,000, Jack?
for the subscriptions?
Yeah, it's very expensive. Yeah, I think we spend 6,000 on the Globe or the Herald. I mean, 600 on the Globe and the Herald. And then we get the Rockland Mariner too.
No, so you're saying $2,000 annually?
I think so. Yeah, I could go back, but I think it's close to that. Yeah, it's
think
not,
that sounds about
I
right.
mean, if you buy the Sunday Globe, it's $6, $5 to $6. So I'm assuming that the daily newspapers at $2 now. You know,
They are
per
pretty
day.
expensive, which is a big
Really?
part of why we stopped them when we closed.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I just have a question. If we're only if we're earning interest of $40 a month, and it's we're going to be spending 2,000 annually, then we're going to dip into the balance.
Mhm.
Okay.
Unless there's some other way to manage the newspapers.
Yeah,
Liz,
we might. Sorry.
And just anecdotally, how many people are in every day reading the newspapers?
Quite a few.
Yeah, obviously some papers get used more than others. I would say the local papers get used more than the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. So if we had to make decisions about reducing the number, that's something we'd consider.
So the New York Times is part of that configuration too, with the Herald, the Globe, New York Times, Rockland Mariner, Wall Street Journal, or anything
No,
else?
no journal.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, thinking of a different library. And then the Enterprise and the Ledger.
Actually, there's only three. I think there's either two or three. I think there's the Herald, the Globe, and the Mariner only. That's the only three we cover.
Okay.
Those three newspapers. But I believe that, like, I used to get billed like $6.99 for the Globe, or maybe it's like $1,500, but it's over I believe it's over $1,000 a year.
And we can check, maybe this year has had an effect and the prices are different now. I don't know, but we'll check.
Yes, they're probably more.
Maybe a lot of people drop their subscriptions and they're less. I don't know.
No, on that. Well, any questions on Zeb's financial report?
Uh,
Zeb?
How do we feel as a group about having the newspaper? Is that important to all of us every day that it's there? It is for me. I just wonder, I think there are people that go in there and they'll sit and they'll read. I've seen them sit and read that newspapers. But is it something that we want to fund for that kind of money? I'm just bringing that up. I know it's a bad thing to say, but I'm wondering from other people. It's okay with me, you know.
Is it the-
Definitely a certain population that uses them, but they do use them.
Yeah.
It seems like
My group of people.
the population that uses them too would probably not want to read an online version. either.
Yes, if they're
Right.
looking for
want
That'd be
something
me too.
and
They
you tell
want a
them that
paper
it's
version.
online, they're not interested in that.
And somebody that delivered newspaper, this is nothing like a newspaper in your hand. I
Right.
really enjoy them, so. But they are expensive.
They are.
They
But
are
it's also
expensive, but
important to support them.
Right,
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
particularly the local news, because that is getting less and less as far as the availability of it.
Yeah.
And so we used to get the Mariner and try to get some local news as something. So, okay. On to the trustee contact list. Are there any corrections, additions?
I'm okay.
Yeah, me too.
Carol, you skipped the review of schedules of department bills.
Oh,
Just,
geez. Yes, thank you, Janet.
we all looked at it.
Any questions? No. Thank you.
Okay.
So the contact list is all set also then.
I mentioned, I know we have a different director, but Bev was always insistent that that would be confidential unless someone allowed their information to be publicized or given out, or I think is good.
I'm sorry, Janet, could you explain exactly?
Well, again, there's new leadership here, but Bev's point was that that list is confidential and it shouldn't be just like left around, or people's cell phone numbers and things shouldn't be just given out unless with permission. So we all have it, but
Yes, and
Don't
I
leave
agree
it-
with that. It's only,
don't leave it on the street or something.
no, it's
Don't
only
post it on the
posted
door.
in staff only areas of the building.
Yeah, okay.
Just 2 or 3 areas, and they're in secure areas where
Okay,
it's not
okay.
accessible to the public.
Excuse me a minute.
I think one recommendation I would make is the fact that certainly the trustees are elected officials, and anybody within the town is entitled to get a list of the trustees. but perhaps the best way also I found is the correspondence goes through the director to the trustees. So that it does maintain some of that, the privacy for the trustees. So Liz, if you can, perhaps manage that.
Sure.
I think that was for all those people that are asking, the throngs of people that are asking for the trustees.
And I think if someone did like call and ask for a list, we would probably direct them to the list on the town website, which just has names, no contact
That's the
information.
names, right, exactly. But if they have questions that they want to put for the trustees, they also have every right to do that. So on that aspect. Okay, so the next one is the 2022 library budget and town meeting. I know I attended town meeting. I know Jack Wood was at town meeting, and I know Janet was there. Carol, were you able to make it, or Zeb?
No,
I
I
was
was
there.
not.
Zeb, okay.
I
And
was
Liz
there.
was there.
Yeah, Barbara and I went.
Yeah. So Liz, would you like to go on about town meeting?
The budget passed with no changes. So what we had requested was the same as what we had last year, except for an increase in the staff line, which is mostly due to union staff increases. Contract negotiations are still going on. So I think I showed last month, there's a line in the selectmen's budget with an amount that will cover all of the increases for all town staff. Just the final amounts are not known yet, but we'll know when the negotiations are finalized. So that was all the developments that really affected us.
Okay, thank you. Liz, coming up though, does the town administrator put out a schedule for the upcoming budgets, to develop for 2023?
I would guess so in a normal year, I think. And I
Well,
think it starts in the
Yeah.
fall.
Okay, so maybe that could also be incorporated into your director's report when that comes along, just for us to have an indication. And also if there's a direction that you're seeing that perhaps would like to consider for the library, and, a new program, new technology, or something else that might be worthwhile to be within the budget or asked for within the budget.
Sure. I have not heard anything yet, but I will pass it along as soon as I do. And something that would probably attempt is to start a conversation about getting the network fee put back into the budget since it was removed. That would probably be our first priority.
Okay. Any other questions, Liz, on town meeting? Okay, building projects updates.
Okay. We talked about the windows and the sewer bathroom situation already. The bathroom, I'm assuming ideally would be addressed in the relatively near future. I don't know. Also, we have the water seepage in the children's room. The same thing that happened that was fixed on the one side of the old front entrance happens on the other side, but not as frequently. I imagine that will probably need to be addressed at some point. And I don't know how the funding of those would be split, and I don't know yet whether that would have an effect on the workroom, if it will necessitate pushing it out further. If not, but I'll let you know as soon as I know anything more.
Have you received any further information from the vendors regarding the workroom?
I have all the furniture quotes. I think I have everything I need, and now they want to know like when it's gonna happen. And I say I'll let you know as soon as I know.
Still waiting for the town then for that, right?
Yeah, and now we'll see if these other building things need to be addressed before that. we'll see
Is,
how all the funding shakes out, I guess.
is it anticipated that the town is going to help pay for these repairs, or are we going to have to find a source of funds?
Doug always says that he will help us, and he had talked about splitting the workroom before, so hopefully that's still a possibility. And he said today, we talked not about the bathroom yet. I asked for a meeting on that, but when I mentioned getting like outdoor furniture for the kids' programs that we're hoping to do outside this summer, he said he could help with that. So he's usually very willing to offer assistance.
Okay, the reason why I bring it up, if we absolutely have to, with a vote of the Board of Trustees, we can tap into some of the funds that we have. I'm not saying, you know, deplete it all. I mean, if we take a hard look at it, and if we need to get something done, and if we need the money, we can all talk about it, but we can, by a vote of the Board of Trustees, access some of that, because the last time I checked, in addition to the 6,000 of available funds that's sitting there right now, there's another 40,000 that we could access at any time, up to 40,000.
Yeah, I hope that will not be necessary, but it is an option.
Okay.
Any other questions on Liz on the building projects, the updates? Okay, we'll move on.
Yes,
Jack.
if I may. The countertops in the downstairs bathrooms. Any thoughts of getting those teed up?
Yes, hopefully if we did anything in that, well, the children's bathroom would be mostly like pipe stuff, but if we did anything in the bathroom itself, I would try to include the public bathrooms at the same time. I don't think that would be a huge job, so I think it would be relatively easy to combine it with something else and get them done at the same time.
Okay, it's just that women's bathroom on the main floor, if you've ever seen The Shining, that color combination in there, I expect Mr. Grady to become popping out of the woodwork.
Oh, you don't like that red color? And then the other thing with that women's bathroom is that every time there's a sewer backup, they open that wall panel to get to the clean out. So it's a good thing we haven't retiled it, because it would have been opened again like 4 more times.
Well, is there a way in which we can address that, Liz, by having some type of a door, a access panel?
Yeah, there is like a very temporary one on there right now. So if that other bathroom gets fixed, then I would definitely look into a slightly better, a better one. Yes, that's not taped up, like the one we have now.
Okay. Any other questions on building projects? Okay. The next one is the strategic plan, and I met with Liz last week, and we had a really good meeting about the approach and participants and resources that we have in which to move forward on that. And I know we've talked about this, and at this point, I think Liz and I are, with the timing of the eventual reopening of the building, staff getting back to kind of back to business in as much as a normal way as they can to start off with, that the timing would be good for us to put together a committee. And we were thinking about, as has been suggested by people, the idea that while the trustees have the oversight and the responsibility of voting on this final strategic plan and dealing with it as its drafts and its proposed move forward, and participating in discussions about the future of the library, a committee that could involve friends, staff other than Liz, somebody perhaps from the town, and also the community, would be worthwhile for us to contact and say, would you like to participate in a committee for the library strategic plan? Liz had talked about, Carol, also perhaps someone from the schools would be very worthwhile since the schools and the library are so closely associated. The Friends, definitely having member or two, or more than one member participate. We thought about the senior center, excuse me, participating. Someone from town government is always a good choice to have also, so that they see the process as it's moving along. And so we thought about, Liz thought about identifying some people and perhaps putting feelers out if they would like to participate. And so tonight, we'd really like to throw out the idea to the trustees on how they feel about going forward with that type of a committee. 8 people, 10 gets kind of a little too large, but certainly 8, 6 to 8 would be a manageable committee. And the whole idea also is to have a timeline of saying, okay, let's really start this project beginning in June, say at this point, June 1st, and we'll end it by next May, and setting definite timelines and expectations of where we're going to be as we move along. This would also include at some point community input through a survey, however we do that, electronically, paper, whatever we would need to do in order to get the community's input. We thought that Reimagine Rockland would be a good choice also for people to using all our social media avenues to get the word out that we were doing this type of a project. The other thing we did think about, the Board of Library Commissioners, and I'll send something off tomorrow, a link, has their consultants that can come in and work with us, either through working with staff workshops, trustees workshops.
Well, that was just my mouse. Don't worry, I'll catch up.
Community workshops, if we wanted to invite the community in and have a brainstorming session. They're very good at having one of their consultants that does this regularly come down and help us out, but then they would also help us out in pulling everything together and reviewing, say, if we put together a survey, those type of things. So to get back to the first question about whether, what's the, how do the trustees feel about establishing a community strategic planning, which they've had in the past. The previous strategic plan with the library had people from the schools, it had people from the town, it had people from the library and friends and the foundation at that particular time. So what's the feeling of the trustees?
Okay, I'll start. I think it's a great, I thought Jack might, I think it's a great idea, and especially, I just want to mention that in light of the fact that there are some people that have not been notified about different committees. This is on Facebook, so, but I have spoken with people individually. I think we need to make it not just selected, but can we make it public that we are looking for people that are interested in this thing rather than just privately selecting them?
Well, I think that's a very interesting idea for the community survey, but also I think that with a committee, we know we have to have people that have had kind of a tangential relationship with the library.
Yes.
In some way. So maybe there is a community member, because we did put down a community member on the idea that has great interest in the library, participates in everything the library does or something like that. So, you know, it's not to say that we couldn't advertise and say there's a strategic planning committee. If you're interested in, please contact Liz.
Jack, what do you think?
It's not a bad idea to go public with it. I mean, that's,
I understand you don't want it to be unwieldy though, so large that you can't get anything done.
now who's going to select the committee?
I know, I don't know.
Well, the approval should be the trustees.
Okay.
It really should. So that we should be able to say that, yes, we know we have our representations reflect what we need to get done, and it reflects the community members that can get this done for us.
We would solicit the input of more people through the survey so that anyone who wanted to could contribute their opinion. Just that way would require less of a time commitment, which I'm sure would be an issue for some people. The idea of serving on the committee would involve a time commitment, but just participating in the survey would be a one-time low commitment thing.
Yes, okay.
And
And
we
we were
are,
looking at the idea that it would be like once a month, there would be a meeting and of this committee to do whatever the next step would be as they're going through the process of the strategic plan.
Carol, that's what I'm having trouble with. I would think it would be better served if if you had a committee that met every 3 weeks in a more condensed period. That way we wouldn't have to go longer. Because don't we make decisions like in early February, what we're going to do for the 5-year plan and the 4-year? In other words, we need to stay ahead of what we're doing all the time. Am I correct in understanding this?
Liz, do you want to respond to that? I mean, I can respond. I'm saying,
but this would be my first time running it, but I think I've heard that what has held this process up here in the past is people being able to make the time commitment to this committee. So I didn't know if fewer meetings is better than more, or less frequent meetings is better than more frequent.
I see it starting in something like that starts in early September and then ends maybe in the end of February might serve. I don't think you're not going to get your most people in the summer coming out for like from June to September. So I think if you started then and being very focused at that point to jumpstart your committee and go, I don't know how long. I just think almost a year seems a long time, and I could be wrong. I would like to see it more the meetings condensed, like every 3 weeks or something, so we could move the process along.
there's a great deal to do because our strategic plan is so old. And every year, the Board of Library Commissioners do require libraries to set goals and objectives. They're changing around exactly what it is for the planning process for them. But in the back of my mind, what I see also is that in getting that strategic plan done, we're setting ourselves up to be able to apply for a lot more state and federal, particularly state grants through the Board of Library Commissioners and federal grants. And I know this is way off in the distance, but the idea that if we wanted to address, as Liz talked about earlier, the constraints that we have in operating the library through a construction grant, we have to get this strategic plan really in place and be able to then utilize it every single year about the goals and objectives and the things that we have accomplished, and identifying to the town that this is the pathway for the library.
And so that's our thing in terms of so our direction now is to get grants. In other words,
No,
in long-term planning, is
No.
this where we're going? Is this the road we're on?
we don't have the option to apply for them through the Board of Library Commissioners right now
Mhm.
because we don't have a strategic plan in place.
Yeah, I
Oh.
understand that.
Yeah, so we at least need to do that. And then the idea of putting in measurable goals and objectives that we do every year and identifying to the town. And then also building on that every year.
And I just want to go on record, and the reason why we don't really have a long-term strategic plan in effect, 9 years ago, the library almost went bankrupt. You know what I mean? So in its 10 years period here, the last 10 years, we've accomplished great. And I see what you're asking for now. Let's go even higher. Let's move it right along. Okay.
Exactly.
I mean, the only thing that I didn't like, and I wanted to bring it up, was I didn't think starting in June is a good idea. And I just think that maybe a shorter, but if a longer for the planning, if we can, get more out of it, that's fine. I'm just, those were my questions.
there are things that we may be able to do during the summer. I understand what you're saying. And now that there's freedom and people can leave their homes and do other things, travel and move on, what have you. There are some things that we could do internally. We certainly could begin working with the staff because they are a captured audience for us at this point to move on, but also in the idea of establishing a committee and establishing some of those. But it's a very valid point, what you bring up, Zeb, absolutely. That September would be really kind of like a more of a kickoff. And we could plan for that. But then I think heading into the next year, it's the idea of like, you know, we actually are going to also build off that previous strategic plan. A lot of it's out of date. A lot of it doesn't have the language that's currently used, but that's okay. There are still values and things that we could add and move forward with. Liz, do you want to add anything more from our conversation?
Just one thing we talked about is we know from town meeting that it's important to offer the opportunity for people to attend in-person meetings, and online only meetings are not accessible to everyone. So we definitely want to give people an opportunity to attend meetings in person and give their input there. Definitely something I would be conscious of.
And we also have to ensure that we get the information out to as many people as possible. And if that requires us to do some different languages and identifying those type of things, or other situations like utilizing the senior citizen for homebound, or using our own group of people that we use in delivering books to, we really have to ensure that we push every possible way in which we can identify this process to the community and have the people involved. And Liz is right, the idea of having people come into the library and having these sessions at the library and having more than one actually is absolutely valuable. So are the trustees in a general idea that establishing a committee, and if you have suggestions, I think if you gave them to Liz, that would be terrific, of people. Certainly we have the oversight of what's happening and what have you, but if there are people within the community, it's unfortunate that Danielle's not with us here since she does work with early childhood education. And that's such a valuable piece of what we see happening at the library all the time. But maybe somebody can help us out with newspapers. How do we need newspapers, which are critical? Absolutely, they are critical to a library, no doubt about it.
I'm sure Danielle will jump in, and it would be nice to have a couple of younger people. This is the future of the library, and she has a good network. Plus, I mean, we probably all know some of the younger people who are stepping up to do things. The big trash pickup going on right now. People who lead the kids, Girl Scouts, boys, all those things. So.
Well, and we've talked time and again about the young adults, and they're sitting over there at the high school.
Yeah.
And what type of technology and other things do they need? Well, what type of technology does the community need in order for the library to operate the best possible way? And for the staff to be able to provide that.
Yes.
So, well, Liz and I will continue to move forward and doing these timelines. I have left a message for the town administrator to just to sit down with him, and I've met him. I haven't had the opportunity to sit and identify myself and talk to him about the library, and I thought I would just identify that this is a project that the library had moving forward, and that his assistance or help or participation or whomever he thought would be appreciated through the process. So I'm waiting to hear from him on that, you know, at his convenience. So,
Okay.
Liz, and also we'll hear from the Board of Library Commissioners also in their participation. So that will be coming through at some point. Liz, any last words on your end of things?
On this, no, I think that's everything.
Question? I have a question.
Yep.
The existing strategic plan, is it very long?
No, I don't think so.
You know, is it possible, is it on, is it possible to send us copies?
Yes, there's definitely like a summary brochure that would be very easy to send out. I can definitely do that.
I mean, something you can scan and just
Yes,
mail to us.
Yep,
Just to
Yeah.
get an idea what the existing one looks like.
yep. I can do that.
Yeah,
and,
that's good.
and Liz, also the latest update that went in a number of years ago to the Board of Library Commissioners
Yep.
about the goals and objectives, I think there's one, but it's a number of years ago now.
Yes, I'll send both.
Yeah, that would be worthwhile. Okay,
You know, Carol, I think you're on target. You know, it needs to be done. And might as well get the ball rolling.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's so many things going on and situations, particularly this past year, with the budgets within all cities and towns, and people are so concerned. I really do think that if we can establish, the strategic plan for the library, it's really is an indication to the town that the library knows where it wants to go and how it's going to perhaps get there with the town's assistance and other aspects to other departments, and the idea of community outreach and coordination with the other departments, many of the things which are going on right now. But it's really, taking control of our own destiny and moving forward. And if that involves, in my mind, the idea of looking at the current layout of that building going forward, we have to be prepared on how we're going to be able to do that, not only within the town, but also within the idea of applying for any future funds through the state. And also, there's a big bill in Congress right now, the Congress that has a little problems with going to work and getting things done. That's my editorial comment, but there is a big library bill going through on federal funding. So usually that federal funding all comes through the Board of Library Commissioners. So we might as well make sure that we're right there and able to raise our hands appropriately for anything that may come along at the right time. And we certainly have the staff that can carry out a lot of these things. So I just would like to be able to put us in the position to be able to do that. So that's it for my talk.
Great.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's
Agree.
move on to the information and meetings, Liz.
Are the Friends meeting on Tuesday next week? Does anyone know for certain? Is that right?
I haven't heard anything different.
Okay, me either. So as far as I know,
Karen's driving, so be aware.
yes.
Pretty
So
good
7
after
o'clock on
talking.
Tuesday.
Okay, any other comments, questions, concerns? Well, I think we have I think that the reopening came up faster than people had thought it would,
Yeah.
but that's good. But that's, I think in my mind, is a really good thing. So do I have a motion to adjourn at 6:31 PM?
I move.
I second.
Second, Zeb. I'm in favor. Jack? Yes?
Sure.
Carol?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Okay. We are adjourned. And we'll see you next month.
Yeah.
Great.
And
Looking
hopefully,
forward to it.
Stay safe, everyone.
it'll be in the building.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be terrific.
5:30, right?
At 5:30,
Yeah.
yes. At 5:30.
I hope Danielle's okay, because
Yeah, Liz, had you heard from her?
Not today. She had emailed me on Monday, so I'll send her an email and
Okay, all right.
see if I hear back.
okay.
Well,
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
You're
Carol?
welcome. Good to see everyone.
Yeah,
right.
Same
Yes,
here.
thanks everyone.
bye.
Thanks. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
You, good night.
Good night.